I know you're gonna dig this.
Hi, this is Stan the Man, host of the Funk Music Hall of Fame and Exhibition Center's Funk Chronicles. Talk Back, recorded live here at DATV Studios in Dayton, Ohio. Zooming in from Los Angeles, California, Patryce Choc Let Banks, the original lead female singer and percussionist for Graham Central Station. Patryce, how are you?
Well, I'm just wonderful. It's 8 o'clock in the morning where I am, so it's early, but
Hey,
it's all about the funk no matter what time.
That's what
right?
That's what it's all about. Let me tell you, because this is what we are here for, to get all that little funk information from one of the icons. My goodness. I'm just going to go right out and just ask you, what and how did you get involved in music? And what made you just want to take off with it professionally?
Okay, well, I've been in music all my life. I've been singing all my life. My father was a preacher. So, of course, you know that story. I started off in church singing. Mm-hmm. So once I found out I could sing, once I found out that when I sang, people would clap and start smiling and pay attention to me, I was probably about 4 years old. It was all over after that. So as my life continued, like all through school, I was always in anything that had to do with music. Orchestra. I started out in orchestra on the cello. So from orchestra to all the, choirs and choral chamber singers and all that, and always had a band starting from middle school. I was in a band, I always had a band. So just always knew that music was, if it was not for music, I don't even know what I would be doing right now. So music saved my life.
Well, man, and we're glad that that's the route that you took, because from hearing so much about you, and who inspired you to just continue doing that? Was your parents, all of them, family members, all musicians?
No, my father was a preacher. Like I said, he sang. My mother, she loved music. She always played music in the house all the time. I remember my very first inspiration being Mahalia Jackson, because my mother used to play her all the time. So she was the first one, and then it went on from there. Then it was, Motown, then Aretha, just anybody that was out there doing it. And then, of course, much later on, when I finally heard Sly and the Family Stone, that was really it for me. I knew exactly what I wanted to do and exactly where I wanted to do it. And funk music was like turned my whole life on, as far as knowing exactly what I wanted to do in music. Before that, I just knew I loved to sing. But after hearing funk music and Sly, I knew that I wanted to be a funketeer.
Well, so tell me a little bit about that then, and how did you become with Sly Stone and Larry Graham and all of that? Man, this is just so interesting to me, because I love to hear stories like this.
Okay, well, the way I first met Sly and Family Stone was, first of all, like I said, as soon as I heard Sly for the first time on the radio, like I was baptized, okay? It was over with for me. It was like I knew that I had to be a part of this thing that they were calling funk music. And when I finally saw them, and I saw Rose and Cynthia playing the part they were playing in the band as far as being musicians and singing too. I had never seen that before in a band. So that's what I knew I wanted to do. So I was in a group called the Doodletown Pipers, which I joined right after high school. And while I was in that group, we played a lot in Vegas. So Dick Griffey happened to see us, come and see us one night, because he was on the road being the road manager for the Supremes. So after the gig, he told me it was something he saw in me, and he told me that if I ever decided to leave the group, to give him a call. So I did. About a year later, I left the group and I gave him a call. So he became my manager. I joined my high school group, put my band back together. We were called the New Perspectives, and Dick was also a promoter. So he was promoting a gig at the Forum in Los Angeles, California, and Sly and the Family Stone were going to be the special guests, and the Young Rascals, they were the headliners. So I begged Dick to please put my band on that show. And he did, and we opened up, and that's how I met Sly and the Family Stone, and Larry in particular, because I was really a big fan of his. So after the show was over, I asked Dick to introduce me to however many of the members of Sly and the Family Stone I could possibly meet. And he did. And so that's how that happened. That's how I met Sly and Larry. So, and I'm trying to make a long story short.
Oh,
so,
wait, hold on. Now, you can slow down. You can take your time, because I want to make sure we hear everything.
So after meeting Larry, we hooked up like it was a connection. And so from that time until about maybe 6 months later, 6 months after that, I moved in with Larry, and he was still with Sly up in Oakland, California, and he was still with Sly. So I went on the road with Larry while he was with Sly. And so that went on for maybe about a year that I traveled on the road with Sly and the Family Stone. And that was so surreal until I was so busy, like not believing that I was really there, that I don't even remember most of it. And I wish, that back in the day that people had cell phones, so that I would have been able to take all these wonderful pictures, because I was a picture taker. But I was so busy, just like I said, not believing that I was even there. I was just trying to get from day to day, and everything was moving so fast, and it was so wonderful. It was just surreal and magical. So Larry I wanted to have my own musical situation, because he was busy, and a lot of times I didn't go on the road with him, and I would just be at home. So I wanted to be busy. So he put a situation together, and we came up with a little group called Hot Chocolate. So that's what he was doing. He was grooming us to produce us so that at some point we could get a record deal. So when he left Sly and Family Stone, however, he joined my group, which was Hot Chocolate, and then Hot Chocolate became Graham Central Station. So that's how that happened.
Wow, man. The Graham Central Station group, which is definitely when we mention funk, you're going to mention Larry Graham and Graham Central Station. My thing is that what all did you do in that group? Not only sung, did you play an instrument? And tell us a little bit about that.
Well, yes. So I didn't want to, when the group finally, the last version of the group finally got together, because we went through different transitions and changes. But when we finally had all our members and we were beginning to start on our way and rehearsing and stuff, I did not want to be just the chick singer, just standing up there beating the tambourine. I didn't want to do that. I told Larry, listen, I want to play something. I want to be a part of the fabric of the situation, of the music, so we have to come up with something for me to play. So Larry suggested the Funk Box, which is a Rhythm King. I think it was one of the first drum machines ever to come out. It was by Rhythm King. And so that's what I did. I played the Rhythm King. You could either set it to play automatically or you could play the buttons manually. So I played the buttons on the Rhythm King, and we called it the Funk Box. And I sang, and I also wrote lyrics.
Wow. Well, I tell you, when you say you wrote lyrics, how was your creating process for that?
Okay, well, at the house, we had a room called the music room, right? So that's where everything was done in the music room, all the rehearsing, all the creating and everything. So most of the time, our rehearsals would start out with a groove. You know, we get in there, we're ready to start rehearsing now. So somebody will start playing, Herschel will start playing on the keyboards, or Butch, or Larry might be thumping something. And so a groove would turn into a jam, okay? And so at the end of that jam, there would be a song. And so that's how the music would, that's how the music would develop. And that would happen the same way with the vocals. Like, they would play a groove, and so I would hear a hook, or somebody else would hear a hook, and we would start singing the hook. And then that, most of the time, the hook came first. And then from there, the lyric to the verses would be created. So most of the time, it would start out like that, just as a jam session, groove type situation. And it would go from there. And most of the times, that's how the songs were developed.
Wow.
And I wrote a lot of the lyrics that I didn't get credit for, but that's another story.
That's another show. Okay. Well, my thing is this. Okay, you with Sly, you went, you worked a little bit with Sly. You get with Larry with the Graham Central Station, and then where did Patryce go from there?
Okay, well, I didn't work with Sly. Let me just get that straight.
Okay, all right.
I didn't work
fault.
with him. I was just traveling with Larry when he was on the road with Sly.
Okay.
So so that's how that happened. So now, you said what happened after Graham Central Station?
After Graham Central Station, and well, let's back up a little bit.
Okay.
How long did that go on? And then, as far as the group is concerned, were you able to record, and name some of the songs that you helped produce and write?
Okay. Well, yes, we became, we rehearsed and rehearsed and rehearsed. And then we started gigging all around the Bay Area. We had certain clubs that we would go to that we would, like, they would be sort of our base. And one of the clubs was the Orphanage in San Francisco. So eventually we got a record deal. And then things started moving really, 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 really fast at that point. And we made, I was with Graham Central Station for 4 albums. And we stayed on the road. We played with everybody. We tore it up everywhere we went, every show we did. We brought this energy. And like I said, I'm trying to just even come up with words with how to describe what it was like to be in a group like that, a group that was so funk centered and funk driven, because it was different, because Larry, who was the bass player, was the star. And so he played bass, and so everything was bass oriented. You know what I'm saying? Everything was just driven by that beat. It was out front for the first time. I think that might have been the first time a bass player had ever been, had his own group and was actually, the person that was driving the groove, driving the rhythm, driving everything about the group. So it was bass centered and it was funk centered. So, it was the level of the groove was always intense, because if anybody knows anything about Larry Graham, they know that they call him many things, but they call him the Funk Father and all kinds of things because of his style that he created of playing the bass. So, so it was different as far as the songs go. The Jam was a big popular song.
Oh,
that
wait,
was an instrumental.
stop right there for a second. Stop right there for a second. Let me tell you, I'm on the radio, and my goodness, every chance I get, we jam with the Jam. Let me tell you.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
That.
And it's a song that never gets old. Very, very complimentary when it comes to. I even tell that is a musician song. You wanna hear some musicians do their thing. I wish the song was 15 minutes long, seriously, but that's just
is.
But I tell you, it is just one of the funkiest songs, and it just gave the audience a chance to hear the experience that these musicians had that worked behind Larry. And then I'm just gonna say, not only did his bass playing get him over, but that voice of his wasn't too bad either. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Women loved them ballads that he sung.
Yeah, Larry was bass personified. He just represented everything bass. Yeah, so I totally agree. So there was the Jam, then there was Can You Handle It, and Your Love, so many. And I participated in one way or the other on practically every single song there was lyrically. Like if I didn't write a verse, I wrote the hook or something. So yeah. So
what about One in a Million? You have anything to do with that one?
No, that was after I left the group, and that was when Larry was pursuing a solo career.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Well,
I left the group. The last album I did with the group was called Mirror.
Okay.
So yeah, that was the first 4 albums.
When you say y'all performed and stuff, could you give us a little? My thing is, I always like to hear about the venues, the good ones, the bad ones, how the audience accept you. I know it has to be one of the biggest stories, that you could tell us that has to deal with, traveling and doing some fabulous venues. And if you opened up the show, who did you open up with? Or something like that, or were you the star of all the concerts? I just need to know, because I'm trying to picture all of this.
Okay, and I'm trying to remember all the things you're asking me. So let's go here. So we played, like I said, we started from the beginning. We had to work our way to the top. So that being said, we worked every venue that anybody worked at in all the states. Like in the beginning, we would do, like in Boston, for instance, because I'm trying to think back and remember some specific names, but one of my favorite gigs we did in Boston when we were first starting out was a place called the Sugar Shack. So we went there in Boston, and let me see, we did Tramps in New York. And when we were doing clubs, I'm trying to remember when we were doing clubs, but can't remember so much all the clubs because there were so many of them. But as we began to grow, we did all the huge venues, which were the Capitol Center in DC, like anything, any conventional center, any Capitol Center, any huge dome or whatever. Wherever it was, we were there. And as far as my favorite gigs, I really like to do Washington, D.C. and Philly. Nobody could party like they partied in Washington, D.C. and Philly. That was the first time I had ever seen people come to gigs with, they had tambourines, whistles, cowbells, like everything. The audience came to not only be, entertained, but they want to be a part of the groove. So they would bring their own instruments and they would party. And this would be mostly DC and Philly that would do this. And it was so much fun. I couldn't wait to go to those two places. The South, I love to go there too, because they had their own flavor. The South was like kind of rooted in gospel. They were real gospel oriented down in the South. And so they had their own way of grooving, which would I loved it because they wouldn't stop until they were ready to pass out. You know what I'm saying? They wanted the groove to like
Yes.
exhaust them. You know, so by the time we finished, everybody was exhausted. So that was always good. New York was cool. Um, New York was kind of sophisticated, you know, in their reaction to the funk, but they definitely respected it, appreciated, and you know, we're funky. You know, they knew about funk, but they made you work really hard in New York because they
What tell,
they they were not easy to please, and so but we didn't have that problem because you know we always won in the end. We always won between the audience and us. We
oh yeah.
always won,
Oh yeah.
but they made you work for it. And as far as people that we were on the different shows with, we played with everybody. We played with George a lot, Funkadelic a lot. We went on tour with the Ohio players for about 2 months one time, I remember. So anybody and everybody, you know what I'm saying? I can't think of all of them, but whoever was out and funking in those days, and not even funking really, because they would put us on shows with, did some stuff with the Staples singers. So anybody that was out there making records
Oh yeah.
and hits and doing gigs, we
That's
were
right.
there at some point.
Well, tell me, Patryce. You know, after the Graham Central station days, you went on and done a few extra things in the music field. Could you give me just a little short version of what happened after Graham Central Station with you?
Okay, so after Graham Central Station, I thought that I was going to immediately get a record deal. You know, it's like, oh man, I know that as soon as they find out that I'm not with Larry Graham anymore, you know, they're going to come beat my door down. But that's not exactly how it happened. It took me about, I would say, a year after I left Graham Central Station to finally get a record deal. But in between time, I went out on the road with different artists. I went out on the road with B.B. King. I went with Gary Bartz. I went with Shaka Khan. I went with Stephanie Mills. So I was staying busy. I was gigging and I was staying busy. And it was fun. It was a lot of fun. And
So with
I
those
finally got my...
with those artists, you what, background singing or?
Yes.
Okay.
Background singing, and sometimes featured, like with Gary Bartz, he was a jazz musician. And so I was doing features with him. And with Stephanie and Shock, I was doing background vocal support, yes.
Yeah, well, that man, so your music career just keeps on moving.
Yeah, I kept on moving. I had to work, you know. I had a little girl, so I had to work, and so thank God the work was plentiful. People did call me, and I was able to go out on the road. And then I got the record deal, and I went to New York to record my album. It was this black company called T Electric. Jim Tyrell was the owner of the record company, and I was ecstatic because they were like so ready. They were new, and I was just starting out. So we were just ready to just, you know, conquer the world at that point. But so I did the record. I had all the best of everything, all the best musicians in New York, and all the best recording studios and everything. And unfortunately, though, the record never did get a chance to really take off because about maybe a month after the album was released, the record company went bankrupt.
Oh my goodness.
But at least my record did get released and people were able to buy it there for a minute. And it's still out there. And a lot of people did manage to, you know, to get a hold to it, you know what I'm saying? And I have people who love some of the songs that today that they still hit me up on Facebook and stuff talking about some of the songs that were on the album. So, you know, I look at it as there's always a reason for everything. So it was cool. I had that experience at least to finally be able to do my own album.
Well, that sounds great. You know, and you brought up how you can still go and get and listen to the song. How do you feel about the internet and how it's impacted the music?
Well, I feel, well, I guess it's six in one hand and half a dozen in the other. It's good that so much music is at our disposal. You know what I'm saying? That we can go online and find anything, very obscure pieces of music that we thought that we could never find. I found some stuff that I was surprised that was on the internet, because everything is on there. If it's not on there, then it practically does not exist. You know what I'm saying? But I have been able to go and find things that I thought were lost forever. So that's a good thing. But the downside of it is, trying to make it in the music business now is a whole different game. And the money part of it, because people can access your music like for free and stuff, musicians and artists who have not made it, have taken a hit financially, and that's the downside of it. But I'm just glad that it's out there for people to be able to access and use. A lot of hip hop artists, they sampled a lot of music from the 70s, a lot of funk music they sampled, and that was good. That was good for everybody. Once everybody got paid and the business got straight, that was good for everybody. So, like I said, it's six in one hand and half a dozen in the other. I'm just curious about something. You, as a DJ, right?
Yes.
DJ, radio host, right? What do you think about that? How do you think the internet has affected music?
Well, I'm also a musician, so and I've had some recordings done. You have the access of, like you said, of being able to hear and listen to songs that you never thought you would ever hear again. That's the plus I love about it as an old school DJ, which I am. But I'm also right there with you when it comes to the internet and people are able to get your music for free. Your royalties it could be twice or three times as much if people would go on the right sites to be able to, so you can be compensated for your work. So there is the pluses and minuses on that. Here in Dayton, Ohio, we are the home of the funk. And and when we talk funk, we're talking about all the groups that have come out of our city, and we have the Funk Music Hall of Fame and Exhibition Center. What do you think about having a funk center?
You know what? That's been a vision of mine forever. I think that it's a travesty. First of all, that funk music to me does not get the respect that it deserves. They talk about and make movies about and make documentaries about. I think I've seen a movie about every genre of music except for funk, like a movie like you can go to theaters and see. And I'm like, I have always thought that funk music has not gotten the respect or the acknowledgement that it deserves. So a funk museum, I appreciate so much what David is doing, because, that's what way past due too, as far as the funk music being represented like that. There should be a huge funk museum there definitely should be one in the Bay Area, because so much funk music came out of there, and so much funk music came out of Ohio. Like I said, we went on the road with Ohio players, and so I got a chance to get really connected to the funk scene in Ohio, and a lot of funk comes out of there. So I'm glad that David is doing this, and I just one day hope that there will be, like they have the what's that Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, blah blah blah. Where is the Funk Music Hall of Fame? That's what I want to know. Where is it? That's what we need.
It's
funk
right here in Dayton.
All of that.
It's right here in Dayton, Ohio, because we like to call our city the home of funk, with groups like Lakeside and Zap and Ohio Players and Slave, Phaso, and more. I'm just saying, this is where we are here doing our thing. And when we talk about Graham Central Station, they're an automatic plus into the Funk Music Hall of Fame. You know that.
Oh my God. And there's so many others. It's just like so past due. You know, it really is. And I want to see that happen, and anything that I can do to help move that along with the David, anything I can do to help, I am more than willing to do, because it's past due.
Well, again, I'm just so excited to get to interview you. You are one exciting person that makes me think about how funky it can be. I'm trying to say, when you talk about the Graham Central Station and some of those big jams y'all had, and again, I want to thank you so much. Thank you so much for giving us your time today.
Oh, please, it was my pleasure. And, anything I can do to keep the funk alive, I am there at all times. So thank you for having me. And may the funk continue to be with all y'all over there.
Thank you so much. Hey, this is Stan the Man, host of Funk Music Hall of Fame and Exhibition Center's award-winning show, Funk Chronicles. Talk back. Until next time, keep it funky.
I can't stand the rain. Yes, my window.